specifically to ask a question, share information, or speak with us today. I am about to bring up the beautiful Danielle Atkinson to join us for Mothering Justice in just one moment. And as she joins us, one of the other things I want to say is I want to thank everyone who has joined us in the room today. Everyone who has taken time out of your schedule, everyone who has said yes to being in this moment with us. We are so grateful and glad to have you in this space and so excited for the conversations that are to come. Danielle. Yes. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for being here for our 10th annual Mama's March. This is really great. We are going to have a wonderful afternoon of fellowship and conversation about how we can harness the strength and power of mothers of color in this country. We have a guest speaker coming, so she'll probably be here right after we introduce ourselves. But thank you guys so much. It is, and I'll speak to you later more about what we're doing. Thank you. All right, so now that you've gotten a chance to meet Danielle, we are going to take a moment and go around the room. I'm going to let you all popcorn it, so I'm not going to put anybody on the spot unless it goes dead silent. So again, I'm Bianca Edwards with Sacred Apothecary in Cincinnati, Ohio, joining you all with Mothering Justice. And then the mics, just a quick note for everyone in the room. If you tap the red button, it comes off mute and it will turn green and we'll be able to hear you. And they're very sensitive. So just remember, after you're done, tap it red again.
Hi, everyone. My name is Alicia Hardy. I'm a senior policy analyst at the Center for Law and Social Policy. I've been in DC area for about 21 years. I work in childcare and early education at the Center for Law and Social Policy. I'm so excited to be here in community and to having discussions, and so look forward to us talking today.
Hi, I'm Rebecca Amadi. I'm with Mama Toto Village as the Advocacy organizer.
Hi, everyone. My name is Alexis Jackson. I am also with Mama Toto Village. I'm a Justice Policy Fellow, and I'm here on behalf of Raven Freeborn. I'm also at Howard University College of Medicine. I'm a first year interested in OB-GYN.
Hello, my name is Christina Hayes, and I am here with Mothering Justice. I am the state paid leave organizer.
Hello, I'm Raven Walker, and I'm a Mama Vis from South Carolina.
Hi, I'm Quantanese, a Mama Vis with Mothering Justice from Detroit, Michigan.
Hi, a word. Our virtual guests are asking if we can speak a little louder.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ebony Taylor. I am the Michigan Executive Director of Mothering Justice. Thank you all so much for being here. Really appreciate it. Thanks.
My name is Cindy Lenhoff, and I am with the National Child Care Association. I am their director and their advocate for our membership. Represents families from all different walks of life that require child care while they work. I also spent over 40 years as a child care provider.
My name is Tish Barnes, she, her pronouns. I am the National Campaigns Director with Mothering Justice. And for today, I am the moderator with the most. So if you have any questions from our virtual team, please do not hesitate because I'm watching.
Hello, everyone. My name is Crystal Liebhart, and I am one of the senior policy analysts at the National Birth Equity Collaborative, also known as NBEC. I'm also a Howard alum, so shout out to the Bison in the building. I'm excited to be here.
Hello, all. My name is Tatiana Omolo. I am the Government Affairs and Policy Director at Mothering Justice, and very grateful that you're here to join us today.
Hello, everyone. I'm Tony Bishop. I am president of the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation Alumni Council and also the Deputy Policy Director at the DCCC. So I'm very happy to be here with you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Fatima Goss-Graves. I'm president and CEO at the National Women's Law Center, and I'm really glad to be with all of you. And also my family lives in Detroit, so I have a little bit of,
All right, now everyone that's joined us on the chat,
what we would like you to do is, as you come off, name, pronoun, and the organization you're with. You can also type it in the chat as well. I'm going to pass it to Tish.
All right, so right now I would like to introduce Josephine Calapini, and I apologize if I'm mispronouncing that. She, hers pronouns. Family Values at Work is joining us today. We also have, okay. All right. Okay. Trying to scroll, and my scroll just stopped on me. Those who are virtual, if you don't mind coming off mute at this time to introduce yourselves, names, organization, and pronouns. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Erica Washington. I am the Executive Director of Make It Work Nevada and Make It Work Nevada Education Fund. I'm located in Las Vegas. I am also board chair of C3 of Mothering Justice, and my pronouns are she, her.
Okay, next.
Okay, so I'll jump in. My name is Marcia Jones, and I am in Dallas, Texas, and I'm the executive director and co-founder of the AFIA Center. And our birth justice work is, what's the name of our birth justice work? Kiana? Southern Roots Doula Collective. I'm sorry. See, that's what happens. So I'm here. I'm just really excited that we were asked to be a part of this conversation, but I was only going to be joining this conversation, and I was going to originally come to DC because we're in the midst of starting our Black Women's Reproductive Justice Summit that starts tomorrow, and our birth justice workers were going to be very busy working on that, so I wanted to give them the time to do the work that they need to do. So this is all you're going to see of me. I'm going to be moving, and you all will be joined by our birth justice workers. Kiana Lewis is going to be here. She's going to introduce herself, and then you'll see another face pop up in just a minute. So thank you all so very much for having the AFIA Center in this space, and I'm extremely excited to be here.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kiana Lewis Arnold. I am a full spectrum doula and a reproductive justice organizer here with the AFIA Center and part of Southern Roots Doula Collective, which is powered by the AFIA Center. My partner is Deandra Willis, and she will be joining us in just a few seconds. She's tightening up some loose ends with the summit that Ms. Jones spoke about. So we're really happy to be part of this conversation, and yeah, thank you for having us. And I guess when Deandra joins, I'll have her just drop something in the chat.
Leanne, we would like to ask you to introduce yourself. Okay. Okay, there you go.
Yeah, sorry about that. Good morning, everybody. My name is Leanne Lorenzo, and I am from the Indigenous Women Rising. I'm here in New Mexico, Albuquerque, New Mexico. We are a reproductive justice organization. We do a full circle of reproductive justice funding. So we have a midwifery program, breastfeeding and lactation consulting. We fund abortions for Indigenous peoples, and we have a solidarity fund for people seeking asylum here in the U.S., underage folks, and what's the other one? Oh, I just had a brain fart. Sorry, but we are really happy to be here. And I wish I could be there in person. That would have been really exciting. But thanks for having us. And I'm just happy to be here. Thank you.
And I would like to ask Candace to introduce herself, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Candace Gibson. I'm the Director of Government Relations at the National Latina Institute for Reproductive Justice, where we use policy advocacy, culture shift, and community mobilization and leadership development to advance reproductive justice for Latinas and Latinxes here in the United States. We have state teams in Virginia, New York, Texas, and Florida. I know you've worked with some of our colleagues within those states, and so I'm just really happy to be here and to learn more from all of you. And pronouns are she, her.
Okay, if there's anyone else joining us virtually, please introduce yourselves now.
Can you hear me? I'm joining by phone.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, thank you so much. Hi, my name is Danita Jackson. I'm the president of Arizona Birth Network. We are a advocacy group where our primary roles in serving our families is through education, advocacy, and support, located in Phoenix, Arizona. I'm experiencing connectivity issues, so that is why I'm joining by phone today. And I'm so excited for this conversation and to get to know everyone here. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. If there's anyone else, you can give your introduction in the chat and we'll definitely acknowledge you throughout the program.
Thank you all so much. And Danielle Atkinson.
So it is with great pleasure that I have the opportunity to introduce to you the president and CEO of the National Women's Law Center. She is a friend to Mothering Justice and a mentor in the space and a leader nationally around the rights of women in this country. And with that, I will turn the mic over to Fatima Gross-Graves. Thank you, Fatima.
Thank you. And I realized when I introduced myself, I didn't give my pronouns. They are she, her. I'm Fatima Gross-Graves. I'm president and CEO at the National Women's Law Center. And thank you, Danielle and Ebony and the entire Mothering Justice squad, which has grown in the years that we have been able to rock with you, which I actually think says something about this time and this moment and also your leadership. And I'm also really glad to be with so many friends as people were popping up on the Zoom screen. I wish you all were here in person and a lot of folks I rock with on a lot of different issues in the space. And I think that's no accident. As I was coming in, I was thinking about what do I say? We are in a time, y'all. And I actually just thought I have to just name the time we're in. And if you have known me for even a minute, you know that I'm one of those folks that annoy everyone because I lead with hope as like my deeply grounded value. And I'm also finding as I'm walking through my organization or walking through a bunch of different folks, seeing folks in the street, folks are struggling to find hope and purpose and resilience for this time. And I want to name that as a challenge for all of us. Because I think we are in the beginning of some days that are going to feel tough. They're going to feel tough because the violence that we saw in Buffalo, it is going to make you feel unsafe wherever you are. And that's going to hang over folks, right? That sort of on purpose use of whiteness and white supremacy to intimidate. That means you're intimidated whether or not you're in any given moment experience violence. That's the whole point of it, right? It's going to be tough times because the Supreme Court has told us already what it's planning to do and make clear, right? And we have seen, and I'm like seeing my sis from the FIA Center and other folks who are on the ground. We have seen the state say we're ready to respond in ways that are literally designed to harm the lives of pregnant people. Like they know that. That's the plan, and it's full steam ahead. And somehow, in a pandemic where over 1 million women still haven't come back to work, where that was so disproportionately Black and Latina women, to the point where there were whole months where all the people who lost jobs were Black and Latino. We are at a stalemate with what was formerly known as Build Back Better. So what I kind of want to talk to you all is that I find my hope and my grounding in other women of color. And that we're going to need each other, and we're going to need to remember that in this time. And that is the case because I have watched as you all have set the terms for the debate. In the pandemic, when people were talking about work as if, and the media would do all these pieces around how hard it is to work from home, you all were being really, really clear that a lot of our people were not at home, that they were on the front lines, that was more true for Black women, that was more true for Latino women. You were really clear that if you're gonna be calling us essential workers, that conditions have to come with that. And now we're in a position where even though we are still scrapping it out on fights around minimum wage in state houses and at stalemates in Congress, workers themselves are raising their wages. They aren't waiting. Ballot initiatives, when the public votes directly, will increase wages. That's going to happen in Michigan this year. I do think one fair wage finally passes, and I don't think that this time that legislature will undo it, because there has been a shift that has come from people understanding and just naming their own power and demanding it. And so much of that organizing is led by women of color around this country. And part of it is that we were in the jobs, we were disproportionately in the jobs that were paying low wages, that were having conditions where families can't thrive. But it is also the creativity of setting the terms for the debate that I want us to hold on to. No matter where we are, we can set the terms from the debate. We can also name the policies that we think are the ones that matter. I had a friend who works outside of the reproductive rights, health, and justice movement recently say to me, so have you been thinking about the opportunity in the end of Roe? And I was like, I can't even talk to you right now, was my reaction, my initial reaction. And I actually couldn't in that moment. And then I came back. And I really, really thought that in the worst of times, there are sometimes flowers that bloom. And what I know will happen in this country is that women of color will just lead. I know that we will lead on the ground to make sure that people are safe. I know that we will lead to make sure that abortion care actually happens. I know that we will lead to ensure people get where they need to get, and that we will put our bodies in the way of the efforts around criminalization and beyond. I know that to be true. And that those lessons will shape the policies that we think that we need going forward. And that it will be the personal stories, it'll be the creative energy, and it'll be the hard work that folks have to do together that people will pay attention to. And it won't be easy. And actually it will be super duper hard. In fact, what history tells us is that when there are deep losses in times of movement, there's also deep fracturing before you can come back together. That's like the lesson that all of our ancestors have learned for us, and that it's not like we say, okay, we're not gonna fracture. We actually do. And so I believe it's gonna be women of color who bring us back together, who knit us together, who paint the ways, who come up with the visions that actually hold us and help us and guide us, and that feel like light in a time where we're unclear at sometimes what we're fighting. We'll get really clear what we're fighting against. And I think it's going to be women of color who are doing that work to imagine a time that's different. Because what we're basically saying is things are at a place that aren't working out for us. That's long been true. And our task, our deep and important task, is to begin painting and building that better world. So I think about the work that Mothering Justice that you all have been leading for so long, to name that better world long before anyone was with you. And then folks start catching up. What does it look like to keep seeding that leadership, that authentic leadership again and again, place after place, at a time where people are going to need to be reminded that something different is possible. So I don't know. I don't have all the answers. I'm looking to all of you for answers, but I actually am also looking to all of you for community, for hope, for help in the resiliency that we will need, for the love and joy that will keep us and hold us in these times. I know I need it deeply. I know my team needs it. I know everyone I meet, I could see it in their eyes. They are needing that. They are needing people to paint a different way, to show us that something is possible, and to say, it's going to be okay because we're going to be okay. So that's my offering. It's not at all what I was planning to offer you, but these last few days, man, they have been a thing. And so I'm grateful to be with all of you. And I know you'll come up with good stuff. So thank you.
Thank you, Fatima. I think that was perfect for the moment that we're in. And, you know, I'm really grateful for this time that we have together. And for the past 10 years, Mothering Justice is 10 years old. And, you know, all of us with children, think about a 10-year-old, right? Like, they definitely have some footing under them, right? They're steady on their feet. They have learned some stuff about the world. They still have that hope and vision and are not afraid to try new things. And I think that's where Mothering Justice is right now. We're not afraid to try new things. We know that we need more. We know that we need the support of others, and we want to grow with all of you. We have been dedicated for the past 10 years around unharnessing the voice and the knowledge and the message of mothers of color. We know that, and we believe deeply that there is a reservoir of knowledge and strength within mothers of color from their lived experience. And that needs to be brought in to this moment, in this time, in this fight. You know, Fatima set the stage. We are living in remarkable days, right? There are recent attacks. You know, we need to think and pray for all the family members of the victims in Buffalo. Amongst them was a father picking up a birthday cake for his son, and a sister who had taken time off from work to care for her brother. And there were people just going about their business. We obviously have the attack on our bodies, and there's a number of other attacks. We have the sterilization of Latino women in detention camps in Georgia, the attack on Indigenous parents' rights in Texas, the apartheid of services that will happen after Roe is struck down, children being stolen from their parents in Florida, and the attack and the lack of protection for Black bodies throughout this country. We need to see the connections and the connective tissues of all of our fights. I believe strongly that people of color is a political term based in oppression, but we have so much more to offer in that space. Connectivity, a shared history. Before our histories forked and we went into different places, we all come from the same land, and we have very strong traditions that have carried us in times of struggle, and we need to tap into that strength now. From the lack of representation in federal elections, we need to be thinking about all of our sisters and all of our brothers that live in places where they don't even have a say. 16 places in the United States do not even have a say around elections. Our brothers and sisters that live in Hawaii on stolen land, who are priced out of the place that they built. Same. I have brothers and sisters in Detroit that are being, their neighborhoods are being gentrified and taken away from them. And in these times, we have always come together to make up for the things that we couldn't do by ourselves. Our issues are not unique. Lack of childcare, lack of paid leave, lack of attention in time of crisis, but it's in those moments when we come together. Now, how do we harness that power for an independent political power to solve these? Our system is broken, but we have a lack of representation in this system, and that is what can fix it. So this conversation, this invitation to join Mothering Justice and to build something bigger than any one of our individual organization and causes is an invitation to build something bigger, an independent political power based in our strength as people and women of color. What we're asking for is not radical. All those things I mentioned, they're not radical. They're what we need, and we need to speak as such. We are proud of the people that fought for the reconciliation package and Build Back Better, but let's be honest, it wasn't enough. Childcare, the funding wasn't enough. 4 weeks of leave, what passed the House, it wasn't enough. We have to unapologetically ask for what we need. And so we're going to be talking about that today. Some of the things that we want to do is we're building a Mama's Caucus. We are so grateful for the leadership of Representative Rashida Tlaib, who has joined us. We're so grateful for Bracewell for helping us on this journey to build a caucus that can be unapologetically asking for the things that we need. A caregivers caucus. We have an amazing paid leave organizer who is transitioning from her role in Michigan into a national role where she'll be building a caucus, a group of caregivers with our friends and partner, Family Values at Work, building on the great work that they have done around voices of workers. And we need to organize in different, new, innovative ways. Yes, we need to talk to our elected officials. Yes, we need to be on their doorstep. Yes, they need to know our names, but there are so many other people and entities that have power. We need to lead the way. We need to show that innovation and that creativity that Fatima just spoke about. So I am so excited to be with you today, and I am excited for the journey ahead. And I'll pass it back to Bianca. Bianca, I love and know your name.
Hello, everyone. I keep saying hello, and I've been with you now for at least 30 to 45 minutes. Hey! So this moment we're in, as Fatima so beautifully put it, this is the moment to shatter. It's an invitation not only to shatter, but also to choose to shift and then lean into your own brilliance. Lean into everything that you know is in your DNA and in your bones. Everything that your body is telling you must happen now in order for us to not go back to a time where we don't have choices. Because we can't go back and we won't go back. We know that right now, not only is it critical for us to have these discussions, but it's critical for lawmakers to understand that it's not their opinion that matters right now in this moment. We put them in those positions so that they understand that it's our power that we are harnessing and letting them use in order for us to get what we need. This is that moment to remind them. This is that moment where we sit together. We have these conversations that bring together these beautiful communities. And we say, not only is this what we want, but this is how you're going to make it possible. We'll give you the budget numbers so that you can make sure that you write it in. But we are going to be holding you accountable because it's our families that can't breathe. It's our families that are the ones that don't have appropriate childcare. It's our families that are the ones that are at home, making sure that your families can breathe when ours are unable to. So in this moment, in this right now, we're going to invite you into this discussion so that you can join us. We're going to open up the table to you in ways that you never invented for us, because we know what it feels like to be left out. We know what it feels like to have our bones separated from our muscles and our sinew, to have our children ripped from our bodies. And in this moment, we will tell you no. You are not allowed to continue to do that. We know our power. We know our purpose. And so in order for you to show up at our table, we ask that you humble yourself the way that we have humbled ourselves in order to survive. To join us in community and power. So that together as we walk and as we move through the streets, we know that we're building something that all of us need. That it's not just for one of us in a moment. That this is generations deep. That it goes into our DNA. And so in this moment, the other thing that we want to invite you to do
Since we're all in this room together, and I'm here with all of these brilliant and beautiful people, all of these people who hold their divine in ways that you can't even understand. One of the things that I want you to do is to breathe, because everything in our bodies in this moment is telling us that we can't. When you feel your chest tightening, when you feel your defenses rising up, when you feel your breath stopping at the base of your throat, we want to invite you into your body. We want to invite you into your belly, because that's where your brilliance lives. That's where our brilliance lives. And that's the only way we're going to find our way out of this, is together and in our own wisdom. So with that, what I would like to invite us into in this moment is to turn to the person next to you, whether it be someone you know or don't know. If this is about to be your new sis or brother or cousin, whoever it's about to be, go ahead and shift and tell that person why you're here today. Why was this moment so important for you to take your next breath in? Take 5 minutes. And for those of you on chat and who are joining us live, please put your stuff in the Zoom. And I keep saying Zoom, but you know what I mean. Please put us in the chat, and Tisha's gonna keep us together.
But that doesn't mean what I'm not that. I was about to say another one. It's not as bad as It's like we're not gonna.
We're talking about, I guess my sound went out. I was just gonna mention. Can't hear anything.
Can you hear now?
Oh, yes, I can hear.
Okay, my mic was muted. I apologize. We were just asking, what were you, why are you here? Why are you happy to be here? What are you looking to gather from being in this space?
I kind of just, I just started here at Indigenous Women Rising in March, and I wasn't really, oh, it's really bright. Okay. I'm outside. And I wasn't really too familiar about the history of, all the reproductive justice. So I had to read up both and kind of got I'm a woman and I'm an Indigenous woman, and so the fight has been going on for a long time, and right now we're stuck between that culturally culture and urban. So the rural at home, and always in two different worlds, because it's hard to survive on the reservation. So we have to come to the city to work, and it's a whole different cultural experience when you come here. And then there are those two that stay on the reservation, and it's just it's a hard balance. I wanted to hear. It's just exciting to hear other women. Like I said, I'm very new to this community, so just finding my voice, finding the words to express what I would like to say, and so I come here with an open mind and an open heart, and just want to learn from everyone, and I guess that's about it.
Well, we thank you so much for joining us, and your voice is so necessary in this space.
All right, is there anyone else that has anything that you want to share? I know here together, since we're in the same room, it's a little bit different because the energy is just here and we're all flowing. Is there anyone else from the chat or from the online space that wants to put your voice in the room? Okay, all right. Is there anyone in the room with us today that wants to share a little bit about what came up? And there's no pressure. Yeah, but
I just wanted to speak to, I think I'm trying to see her name on there who just spoke. Is it Leah? Okay, sorry, Leanne, I don't have my glasses on. But Leanne, I appreciated what you just said. And I feel like I was you about 7 years ago, trying to find my voice and way to contribute to making change for people like me or going through things like me. And for me, I'm a lupus warrior, so I battle chronic illness. So I wanted to find out, how can I share my voice and my testimonial for what I went through to bring about change. And you've come exactly to the right place to find your voice and figure out how you can help your people in the cultural change and the things that you all are going through. So I just wanted to say I appreciate you for being in this space and coming in with an open heart and open mind and wanting to know, like, hey, I know I can help, but how can I help? And how can I use my voice to share and make change? So I just wanted to tell you I'm one of those people too who are looking for the direction and path to contribute to something that's greater than me, to help everyone close to me as well. So I just wanted to share that.
And I would like to share that Josephine said, I love Christina.
Okay, well, with that, if there's nothing else, okay, beautiful. We are going to now intro in and bring in Senator Booker, who has a video and wants to share with us some of his thoughts.
It is such a pleasure to join you all as you gather for a national advocacy roundtable on reproductive health and justice. There is a dire need, an urgent need to address the disparities within our healthcare system and increase the diversity itself of our health workforce, have it reflect the diversity of America as a whole. I'm so grateful for all of the local, statewide, and national organizations that are tirelessly, indefatigably, relentlessly working towards health care parity. I'm also proud to have introduced bills, including the Black Maternal Health Momnibus Act, the Mommies Act, and Justice for Incarcerated Moms Act. They are all cornerstones in advancing maternal health care. I will continue to push for the passage of these and other key pieces of legislation because the only way to have a truly equitable healthcare system is to ensure that our most vulnerable communities have full and equitable and affordable access to care. We also need to continue to channel our energies towards ensuring that Roe is codified into law, not only because I believe in bodily autonomy, but because I believe these difficult decisions are best made between a woman, between families, and their doctors. The failure to pass the Women's Health Protection Act to codify Roe v. Wade is just so deeply unfortunate. But the fight is not over, and we need to continue to be vocal. Abortion is health care, and it's the federal government's mandate to protect people's most fundamental rights, not for the government to get into people's most personal decisions. The most dangerous outcome is that these issues fall out of the public spotlight and we get to some twisted reality in America, like we see in some states where women can be turned in for bounties if they try to get abortion care, that rapists could sue their victims, that we have a place where there is a world where women can't get access to life-saving care. As advocates, I know your passion. It is incredibly important to have you continue to push public conversations, to bring people together, to spark activism. There is an issue in America that affects millions in our country. It affects every one of us, because if you're alive, you were born in maternal health care, should speak to the best of what we are, not to inequity and injustice. So to all the advocates listening to this event, I commend the work you do on a daily basis. I know it's not easy. I know it's hard. I know it can be frustrating, but thank you. Thank you for never relenting. Thank you for keeping the public's attention on this matter. Your work will be fruitful, and I believe that you and your efforts will help lead to policies that end this shameful epidemic and advance reproductive health towards justice. Thank you.
We want to thank our speakers for today for joining us in the ways that they could, for joining us in person and online. And right now, we're actually going to take about a 5-6 minute break. So get your tea, get your water, get your snacks, whatever it is that you need. And we're going to take a minute to breathe, come back together, and then have a roundtable discussion. Or in this shape that we're currently in, a U-shaped discussion with our online family in front of us. Coming back into space together. So those of you online, thank you again for joining us. I'm just going to keep saying it because it's a pleasure to be in this space with you. Give us another moment. We're going to wrap up conversations here in the room and be right back with you. As you can see, I grabbed my snacks. I now have my cheese, my grapes, and Danielle has talked me into bread, even though I'm supposed to be living this gluten-free life, but we're gonna do what we do today. So there's no cupcakes, so I'm doing bread, okay? That's what we're doing. So as we all come back together, I need to apologize to each of you. We have been recording, and I know that it gave you the little thing when you joined, but I forgot to mention it as the presenter. So I want to take a moment and let everyone know that we are recording so that we can share this with our partners, our community members, our friends, and our family when we return home. So if you haven't already clicked the button, I don't think there's a button to click, but just look out for it. But there should be a red circle that's showing you that we're recording. I am actually going to toss it over to Tish. There are a few people that have joined us and that are new to the space, and so we want to welcome them in. And for anyone else who has some things to add, since we've been in space here, we want to bring you into the room with us.
Okay, so thank you. I want to first of all introduce Shanice Bamiro, if I'm mispronouncing that, I do apologize. She, they pronouns from Prosperity Now. So thank you so much for joining us. Next, we have Deandra Willis, she, they pronouns from AFIA Center in Dallas, Texas. So thank you for joining us. And last, we have Tiffany from the Southern Birth Justice. Thank you so much for joining us.
Is there anyone who's joined us online that wants to throw anything into the room with us? Okay, with that being said, we are going to go ahead and shift into a large group discussion. So this is where I invite any of you who aren't in the room physically with us to come off mute and share. We're going to kick it off with a few questions, and this is probably going to be about 5 to 7 minutes per question. So as we step in, the first question for you all, and we'll in the room just have this conversation here too, is now that we're together, what does it mean to be a woman or a mama of color in this moment right now? And don't forget, hit the red button to come off mute.
Hi, everyone. Good morning, or not even morning, but I was actually having this conversation. Oh, I feel like it's very, that's better. Okay. What does it feel like right now? So I was just actually talking to Rebecca about this. I guess in the context of what happened this weekend, just thinking about that, I remember in January last year explaining to my son about the Capitol insurrection. I actually wrote something about it for my job and just what that looks like for Black parents to explain these things to your child and the extra level of explanation that comes with understanding that this is rooted in anti-Blackness, what that looks like, but also having to give them that safety and security, balancing that with preparing them for the world and what it looks like. And you know, I listened to talk radio and PR, and I just kept turning it. I did not want him to hear about what happened in Buffalo because it just felt like a whole other level of personal attack beyond what we've seen or heard, or at least in my lifetime. I'm 33, so it just felt on a whole different level. And so right now it's just took that, I explained it to him, I tried to the best that I could, and it was just so difficult. And I wanted to tell him you're safe, we can do this. And I kind of just said, me and your dad love you and we'll always love you, we're here for you. And, we're going to do everything we can to protect you. And he said, well, who's going to protect you? And it was just like, yeah, I love you. Like, that's how I ended the conversation. Like, there was nothing else. So right now it feels like a whole other level of figuring things out that I didn't expect to have to do so frequently, and on this level. My son's 8, so it's just like trying to pick that conversation up, and I know he's going to ask me when I get home today, and so I'm hoping to just get the good vibes of being here with everyone and in community, and try and take that back with me when I see him, and I know he's going to ask me again.
So we are also asking our virtual audience to participate. You can either come off mute, or as I've said in the chat, you can drop your responses in the chat and I will read them aloud.
Else came up for some of us in the room. What does it mean right now to be a woman or a mama of color? Yeah.
Oh, so I feel like for me, this is Quantanese again, everyone from Detroit. There is like hope mixed with fear for me. So I'm hopeful just in this motherhood journey. So my twins are 4 years old right now. And from the time of conception until now, it's been a whole thing, a learning process, an undoing process. So unlearning unhealthy habits that I just grew up in. And so right now it's a little stressful. It's a little fearful of systems, big systems that are supposed to protect us all. But every day I learn just how harmful a lot of systems and policies embedded in a lot of these systems. Historically, we are living within some of the same policies. They're so outdated and just continuing to harm us in so many ways. So when I think about they're starting preschool this year. How do I trust the public school system? Because that's what's affordable for me right now. And I am a product of Detroit public school system, which I thought was amazing. It got me so far, but it also it had a lot of barriers as well. So I think about healthcare as well, thinking about just how hard it was to navigate healthcare during pregnancy and birth. And now 4-year-olds everything is coming at me. And so I want to make all these changes to improve just my entire lineage. I think about my great-grandmother, my grandmother, my mother, who was murdered when I was 12, but my great-grandmother and grandmother are still living. So I listen to their birth stories and how traumatic they were. I think about my trauma from birth and pregnancy. And so it's just all connected. It's the present now is related to the fear and hope that I had when I first became pregnant. I'm thinking about the future, and it's just so many thoughts. So many things are overwhelming right now. I'm stressed out right now. Every day is like trying to heal from past stress and past trauma while also navigating these things that are coming up in the media every day that you try to block out, but you can't because you still have to protect yourself and your family. So yeah, it's being a Black mom. It's so much joy in this experience, but it's also so much. I try not to live in fear, but it's naturally fear there. So that's where I'm at between the two.
Yeah, thank you, Quantanese. One of the beautiful things that I love that you said about healing, there is a belief and there's a knowing that if you are a woman having a daughter, that you're actually carrying your grandchildren with you. So anytime you do healing, you're doing 7 generations back and also your grandchildren and all forward. So I love that we've been able to bring that into this room because as women, that's what we do. We know that it's not just our wound. We know that our wounds are intertwined and connected. And so that is something that I'm really grateful that you uplifted and that you uplifted with your son, because those are the conversations. I have a 6-year-old daughter. And right now, a lot of her conversations have been, but mommy, why don't they like my skin? She's like, I love my bouncy hair, but why don't they like my skin? And so having these conversations around what it means to be a mama of color and a woman in this moment is something that I think we've been generationally unbinding ourselves from wounds for over and over and over again. What else? Anything else come up in the conversations as we were together?
I guess I'll share experience just in the now of everything that's going on in the world. My concern is the level of care that our elected officials have about our health. The pandemic highlighted the need for everyone to stay home when you're not feeling well, to not spread germs, to protect other people who, may have compromised immune systems like myself. But just knowing that the pandemic has shown what is needed and now it's being ignored instead of being made a priority is a little, makes me a little nervous and wondering where we are headed in the future when we're already so far behind everywhere. Like, we all need access to pay leave. We all need access to better maternal health and different issues like that around our health. But like the changes in the CDC making for quarantining and COVID, different strands coming out, and just future preparation to keep our health protected and made important is just feels very, just a crazy way to feel, just not knowing for certain what is going to be made as a policy to protect us in the future for any type of pandemic to come out or something that kills such a huge population of people. Will that be looked at, and will our health be made a priority for everyone? So that's one of my current concerns.
Well, I think for me, it's twofold. The one thing that I feel that as Black mothers, we don't do well is give ourselves permission to fail and give ourselves permission to rest. And, understanding that this superwoman, super unrelenting caricature was placed on us because of white supremacy. And that we have, to some degree, made that a badge of honor. So the one thing for me is give yourself permission to fail and give yourself permission to rest. Because if you're burnt out because you're consistently running on a hamster wheel, you can't think strategically, you can't react strategically, and you're just going to burn yourself out. And the other thing, too, is that we have to pass generational messages. In September, I'm going to be a grandmother for the first time, so I'm super excited. My daughter-in-law is having her first baby, and when they told me, the first thing she said is, I don't want a hospital birth, and I don't know what to do. So I immediately got on the phone with a doula network I know in Philadelphia, birth centers in Philadelphia, to get her hooked up, and then to let her understand, you have the right to demand the delivery that you want. And we have to be okay empowering each other, because I think no one else is going to empower us but ourselves. And so those are kind of my two things, is that, that intergenerational messages, and then also that permission to rest and that permission to fail, and realize if something doesn't work out, it doesn't mean that you are a failure. It just means that that particular thing did not work.
Hi, this is Danita Jackson in Phoenix. Is it okay if I speak, and can you hear me?
Can hear you.
Okay, thank you so much. And thank you to the young lady who just spoke, and congratulations on becoming a grandmother. You're welcome. I wanted to add on to what you were sharing about the permission to rest and fail. And in alignment with that, I think it also could be the component where there's the fight or flight feeling, where who is looking out for me so that I can take a moment to rest. Or if I feel, especially as a single Black mom, I don't have another counterpart that's protecting me. And so even in my moments where I may even be able to recognize that rest is important, I still feel that there is that sympathetic or parasympathetic nervous system going on, where I'm on the front line to keep myself safe and my son safe. So I'm not sure if there's someone in the roundtable that would be able to speak to that, so that how we can, as mothers and women of color, aid ourselves to have that rest and to be okay failing. Thank you so much.
Hi, it's Raven. I'm a mama biz with Mother and Justice from South Carolina. One way that we started coming together as a community in South Carolina as Black women was paying for each other to have doula support. It didn't matter what state you was in. Instead of getting money to just buy a bunch of onesies that we know we're gonna run through in the beginning, we would put our money to pay for a doula so that doula could go to that mom's house and hold her newborn baby so she could just sleep or wash clothes or do whatever. And the systems of oppression has destroyed the villages that we all were born into. My mother is 65 and I'm the only child that did not have a mom who stayed home to watch her grandchildren, because my mother still works a job that she's been at since she's been 19 years old, because she wants to hit that Social Security point to get all her money out. So growing up, I didn't understand. I'm like, why you just want to quit your job? But being older, I'm like, wow, oppression is the reason that because you've been at this company so long, you should make more money. You should have more days, but they don't care. So we have to rally together in these other ways to say, I get it. You don't have a partner. You don't have nobody. You can't lean on your grandmother or your mother. It's not because you don't want to, it's because they have to go to work too. You don't have the money, or you don't want to put your baby in daycare. So what can we do? So we started rallying funds to help moms with postpartum care, because we understand that if you do not have help during postpartum, it can lead to postpartum depression, postpartum anxiety, which can lead to mom losing their jobs because you cannot perform as your best self, even being at work, constantly thinking about your infant being home. And postpartum don't stop. It don't stop at 6 months. It can go 3 years. It's a continuum, because if we don't take care of that mom when she first becomes impregnated, we're missing the mark. And now we have moms who have 6-year-olds, 7-year-olds, 8-year-olds who are still tired and burnt out because we missed the mark with that mom at birth. As soon as she found out that, hey, I'm expecting, we're supposed to swoop her in and grab her under our wing, because the systems of oppression have destroyed our village. So we have to radicalize, and rally in a different way. So that's my viewpoint with working with different doulas across the United States. It's just not in South Carolina. I've helped moms in Ohio get a doula, help moms I don't care. Just tell me where you're at. We're going to find somebody to come over there who we know, who we work with, who we trust to help you, because I know what it feels like to have that newborn baby in that toddler and you're going off 3-4 hours of sleep. I know what it feels like to have toddlers and you're just tired and you need a break. So I wholeheartedly understand that all mamas can't afford rest, but all mamas deserve rest. So that's all I wanted to say.
Yeah, something that Raven said. Well, one, Raven's been just speaking my soul for the last 2 days, but it reminded me of what Leanna was talking about. Our soul remembers what it was like to be in community. And it is hard when we are not in community because, like Bianca was saying, that, 7 generations back, we can still feel those ties that were broken and the systems that are stealing. I always tell people, yeah, grandma's a greeter at Walmart. Grandma can't help out after school because grandma's still working. And we have to realize that these things were taken from us and we deserve them, because when we don't and we don't name it, then we internalize that oppression and we blame ourselves for not knowing, oh shit, I didn't know before I had a baby that I was going to need so-and-so amount of money in my savings for childcare, because that's not the way it should be. And we have to remember and relearn and demand those things in which we need.
I was Also hoping to add a quick perspective as a single mom, and also a mental health therapist. So I'm a therapist for pregnant and postpartum moms right now. And so what it has been helpful for me, because there are very stressful days, and days that I feel like it's impossible to get rest. So we talked about the importance of breathing earlier. Literally every breath counts. So rest might not always look like 8 hours of sleep without any disruptions from kids or partners or just anyone. It could mean really prioritizing that warm bath, that if you have a moment in the car before you pull off or before you go in the house when you come back home at the end of the day, like stay there, breathe, sit in your car, listen to music. So finding ways to incorporate joy and pleasure in your normal routine and your normal days, whatever that looks like for you. It doesn't have to look like what social media is telling us to do, what this book is telling us to do. It's just really about connecting with your body. And of course, you have to slow down to even connect to your body and start breathing. But just every little thing that you do that's intentional to bring you restful energy, to energize you sometimes, just to take a pause from whatever it is that's stressing you out on a daily basis. Like do that, find ways, find community, and just letting what you need be known, asking for help. All of these things count. And it's not all, it takes time to build these new routines as well. So be patient as a single mom, and just know that everything is always working out for us, even when it's hard, it's challenging. Just keep going, ask for what you need, and stay in sort of a positive mindset so you can always attract what you need to you. And you're not focusing on the negative and what you don't have. So focus on abundance and know that we do deserve this, and there are resources out there for us. We just have to come together and get what we need together.
Okay, we have Josephine. If you would like to give a few words now, you can do so.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, good. I just wanted to, I guess, share a different or an additional perspective. First, I'm really happy to feels a little bit like eavesdropping when you're on video, but happy to be participating. I guess in the spirit of transparency, I'm always in these spaces saying I'm the childless adult. I'm the auntie you could drop your kids off to at any time. I'm usually the person that gets the calls when my friends are running late for daycare pickup. And in this moment for me, it feels like so many things, some of which have already been said, but I'm also, trying to think about a few things about how spaces like this both feel sacred and like luxury, but also so needed. Like, how do we create more spaces like this where we can, one, just be together, but also strategize together in a world that's pulling us in so many different ways. There's so many different demands on our time, on our priorities, that, spaces like this feel like a luxury. And I'm also, I share a lot of Fatima and other folks' hope and what I think is possible the more and more we come together and sort of identify the reality that, the systems don't work for us. Working solely within the systems as a strategy doesn't work for us. And I have a lot of hope in what we can build together, but I also just have a lot of, in thinking about like the role of Black women in this moment, there's like so much there's lots of language around, how we're going to save the world and save democracy and how we have so much power if we can organize and if we come together, which, to some extent might be true, but it feels really weighty. And my anxiety around all of it is I feel like traditional ways of organizing, Danielle, something you mentioned earlier, traditional ways of organizing is not working. Like we've done, the women's marches on the Hill, and we've done, the ads in New York Times, and we've done the Hill meetings, and we've done, all of this stuff. And I'm just like, what is it really going to take, and how do we build towards that, and how do we have spaces like this that create opportunities to have a real conversation about what it's really going to take for all of us.
You actually are leading us right into not only our next question, but Josephine, I hope you could hear, like, what time do you want the kids? Because we can drop them off now. You just need to let us know.
Anytime. I'm always the one that's like, I want to go to the zoo, but it looks weird to be a single Black 40-year-old in a zoo by yourself. So I borrow kids all the time,
we got enough kids. Yep. Hey, look, I think you got about 15 kids coming in about 45 minutes, so just be ready. Yeah, come on.
Hi, everyone. Lauren here from Prosperity Now. So Josephine definitely touched on, I probably don't need this. I keep forgetting we do have the ones and on Zoom. So Josephine definitely touched on a really, really important note that I always keep in the back of my mind, especially as someone who kind of started on what people deem as grass tops entity of politics and policy, but working with grassroots organizations and wanting to support that from probably more of an intersectional point of view, just being Black and a woman. And one thing that I have found to be really interesting to start thinking about, especially I transitioned out of the democracy space and now in the economy space. So more conversations about how intersections of reproductive justice also impact financial stability and wealth building and closing the racial wealth gap. Having conversations about housing vouchers and reparations, just little things that they seem little and minute, but as we're completely eliminating the middle class, which is absolutely what's happening, we need to start having these conversations from not only, well, one, because we need to break down, and many women shared here today that they are single mothers, and break down this idea of the nuclear family, because people having to choose between daycare and childcare or having a house or being a first-time homeowner is way too much stress. And many people are thinking about it before they even have went on a date to be able to consume these things. And so I just, whether, you are the lovely Black auntie, the rich auntie, as people call them these days on social media, or if you already have a family, it shouldn't be decided based on your financial standing. And I think as we're having these conversations about just the current attacks that seem to always target very, very, very specific entities of the Black community, it's always targeted by class. It's always targeted by racial standing as well, obviously, but it just seems to hit certain aspects of our community. And because we're not a monolith, you do not have a lot of people sometimes that put themselves in other people's shoes of the community, right? So then you have these different sectored entities of the Black experience and Black aspirations, but it's time we start having that conversation. And not on social media. I love what I saw recently through not only Nat Ministry, which I love to follow, but also several other entities where it's like, we need to take some of our things back, right? We need to take some of our creativity, some of our innovation, some of our leadership back, because it's being used as buzzwords in spaces. We created the conversation about DEI. We created the conversation about democracy and preserving democracy. We created the conversation about reproductive justice, and they're all being used as buzzwords today. And all of these, exactly, which was coined by a woman, Dr. Kimberly Crenshaw. And so, we need to start taking back our spaces and having, obviously, Mothering Justice does an excellent job of holding these communal spaces, but more of these convenings where there can be proactive policy-driven solutions that help us to manifest and bring to fruition our wants, desires, and needs. Because it's not necessarily happening, and it's sad for me to say this on the policy scope, working with several legislators, but it's not happening in most of them. I gotta be honest with you, from being a staffer back in the day to now being on the national side of things, it is not happening. And so what are ways in which we can be proactive, in which we can center our desires, wants, and needs? We need to live a soft life, not a hard knock life. We're done with it. So that's all I wanted to say.
Just wrap this up, Lauren. I mean, with the soft life, I'm here for it. I'm like, yes, nap ministry. I need a nap now. But you're leading us into the next question. And this is our last question for today. But let's take a moment and sink into what is it actually calling for us right now? How does our work intersect and align? So what are the things that we all need to be doing to build together? And whatever's coming up, throw it in.
Hi, I think I was having a conversation with Christine, and I definitely think something like beyond intersectionality, like obviously we're thinking about how gender, sexuality, class impact Black women, Black birthing people, but also connecting different political issues with what we're going through, like the fact that what we were talking about, like the Buffalo mass shooter, talking about the Great Replacement and the fear that white populations are becoming smaller and populations of color are increasing, and that's why he did what he did in his mind. But how that is like a legitimate political idea in the minds of conservatives, and how that plays a hand in wanting to restrict abortion, because if all those white women are forced to have babies, either they're going to be raised in their homes or be given to other white people, how our children, if children of color, if women of color cannot get access to abortion, those kids are going to be put into the foster care system, and the abuse rampant in that. So I think Black women, Black birthing people, we do not live single issue lives. And I think this is such an amazing, incredible space to talking about the ways in which all of these other issues are greatly tied to our oppression. It's not just about abortion access, and also what y'all was saying about like how our terms are getting co-opted, and like literally seeing online people, like white women talking about reproductive justice as if they were the main one, but like, yeah, why do we have reproductive justice? Because y'all failed us. Because we have to do it. Sorry. But yeah, I think connecting political issues more, different political issues that seem like bringing in immigration, thinking about the Haitian people who are at the border, women who are in detention centers being forcibly sterilized against their will. We don't live single issue lives, so we need to have multi-issue solutions.
Yeah. We do not live single issue lives. Yes. Thank you.
I don't know. I mean, I've been listening to all of you amazing women, and I think it's really obviously I'm not a Black mom. I am a mother. I have 2 daughters. I had never thought about this. I often say what we do today affects the next 7 generations, because I spent 30 years in the state of Oklahoma and learned a little bit about Native American populations and their struggles. And that was one of the sayings that I left Oklahoma with. I was told it was an old Indian wisdom, is how it was quoted to me. And I do believe that, having worked in childcare for over 40 years. I am a grandmother to 2 children that are half Latin. Her dad is from Ecuador. His family immigrated here. And I also have 2 nieces that are biracial. And it's unbelievable to me that, anyone would leave out child and leave out their family. And I can't feel your pain from the past, but I see your pain in the current day. And I want to really thank CLASP and Fatima with the National Women's Law Center, because as the director of the National Child Care Center Association, they publish some really incredible information that we share with members. And one of the things we know in childcare is that we have the opportunity in childcare, to help raise a generation that can work, play together, because people aren't prejudiced. It's a learned behavior. And our legislators are not supportive of childcare. And I keep thinking to myself, and this is just me, but in my old age, I'm still working at 67, is that if we did what was right in the beginning, how many abortions would we save? Maybe we're forcing women to get abortions. And I absolutely can't believe we're trying to change, go backwards from that. But it's like, how many women have abortions because they know they can't take 12 weeks off from work? They know and get paid. They know they don't have help with childcare. They know they might not get enough help with their food. And I think our issues are interrelated, like this lady over here said. Economy. If we suppress people and don't allow them to go to work because they can't find childcare, and we know that a lot of childcare workers and professionals are people of color. And it is so sad that the thing that is more important than even a college education when it comes to brain research, you might ever get to college if you don't get that good foundation and support that mom who's tired. We just had a little boy in one of the centers that I am well acquainted with, and he cannot come to school. He's getting ready to have his pre-K graduation. In the childcare center he goes to, his mother lost her job. And so the state won't pay for his care while he finishes pre-K with his friends. And that's because we have laws at the federal level that don't require states to do what's right for children. And we could, I do believe, while there are so many issues, I think that if we could fix taking care of mothers and children, right now only 1 in 6 children that live can't even access funds. And even then, they're accessing them for sometimes not equitable care. And, I'm just going to always say to any group of people I'm with, don't let your legislature sleep at night. Just don't let them, especially if you have one of the staunch Republicans who won't even give you the time of day on the issue of child. I don't let Marco Rubio or Senator Rick Scott sleep. And I ask everybody, I just ask everybody. They receive letters, phone calls, virtual meetings, before COVID, in-person meetings. If we could just get enough to flood their office and not be the only one showing up, calling or emailing. And then when we go to the polls, and God willing, everybody will have something, we might stir some of these people up. Wow. I know everything can't be fixed by child. I know a lot can be fixed if mothers have access to child care. Thank you for having me today. I appreciate it.
Yeah, that's a very important point. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. I'm happy to go because I do work in the childcare space, and I appreciate that so much of class work. It means so much to you. I think that what we can do, or what can be done, is bringing all those pieces with us when we talk. So I talk about childcare, work in childcare and early education. I always talk about the workforce, the childcare workforce. I talk about what it looks like for justice-impacted families to access childcare supports. I talk about at the federal level what the policy looks like. Without that funding, what states do to create barriers to kind of reduce access to these programs, and that those barriers
disproportionately impact Black and other families of color, particularly those with low incomes. So whether that means your state says, you can't job search and have childcare, you can't, we don't let high school students or people who are in college access. So I think connecting what states will say, like, oh, we don't have the funding, we have to do this, we have to have these barriers, we have to make sure, is connecting all of that back to what that looks like in the historical context of what we live in, what that looks like in the present context, and then going broader than that. Access to childcare and education is incredibly important, but if the access is not at the times parents need, whether that means overnight care, whether that means weekend care, what that looks like, we have to go into those crevices that people are like, well, this is a general policy, making sure that, we're giving enough money for childcare. Sure. But that's just the same trickle down economy mindset that we have. Like, if we put enough money, that'll go down and we'll make sure everyone has it. And that's just not the way that it works. Until we're centering those families that have the highest barriers, that have the most difficulty accessing it, whether they're connecting that to transportation, we're connecting childcare to housing, we're connecting childcare access to the health, to healthcare, and connecting all those pieces. We're not one policy, people, families. We have to bring all those conversations into what that looks like and make it clear that these are systemic issues, because I feel like a lot of the times it's like childcare and it's like, oh, these are the issues we're talking about. And it feels, even being in the policy space, that people are agreeing that, like, yeah, we understand, we agree, and there's not access for Black and other families of color with low income, and it's terrible, it's disproportionate. And then let's go back to just doing this very general policy. So it feels, a lot of times it does feel like lip service, and it's very disheartening that it's like, oh, we're getting this money or we're doing this, but let's keep it very general and it'll work out. And so we have to push back against that. We have to take back our power. We have to center our voices, our narratives, and we have to be clear that Janelle Jones, Black Women Best, looking at policies like that, looking at perspective from that if Black women are at the center of what it looks like to access these programs and they have the access, then all others will also have that same access, because in many ways we're often at the lowest rung of society. Black and Indigenous women together are often at the lowest rung of society. So we have to start building policies that center us and that are driven by us, and taking back that power, because that's the only way it's going to get done.
Hello. So again, my name is Crystal Leapart, and I work at the National Birth Equity Collaborative. So essentially, we focus at a high level on things related to the momnibus, doula support, and maternal and infant mortality in general. But of course, we know that encompasses all of what everybody's talking about. So I think two big things that are standing out to me as somebody who comes from the electoral side a little bit more and working with state legislators, particularly Black women legislators. I think sometimes we know that we generally have political power, but I think we sometimes scale back what that actually looks like in application during these times. So I think that literally when we're talking about agendas and policies and things like that, we are in a place, I think, where we can literally be ungovernable until X, Y, and Z gets done. Things will not move until X, Y, and Z happens. You're not getting anything from me until X, Y, and Z happens. And again, I think people are getting there slowly but surely, but I think this opportunity presents itself in a very clear way that that's just what we need to do. Again, I think sometimes we think of our access and our information and all this great stuff that we're talking about and the things that we're doing in the whole collective reproductive justice movement is just like this internal or community piece of it. But there's so much research and information that does exist that can already be informing policy. So this whole excuse around research and the things that sometimes policymakers use to scapegoat what's going on with us, particularly as Black women, I mean Black women as all experiences of Black women, they just haven't been doing it for the most part. So again, there are some good examples that are happening on a state level and somewhat on a national level, but I think collectively we're in a space and have been in a space where it's like, no, you're not getting any shit, excuse me. You're not getting shit from us until X, Y, and Z does take place. So that's my first nugget. My second nugget too, as I'm thinking about my own personal portfolio, there are a lot of members that, new Black women members that are interested in also talking about illnesses like PCOS and uterine fibroids and endometriosis and all these things that we unfortunately disproportionately have to deal with, which sometimes aren't folded as neatly into RJ, but it's, I think obviously in my analysis is really included in that conversation. Also thinking about menopause, thinking about stillbirths, thinking about all these things that are a part of the process and reproductive things that we have to deal with, but unfortunately aren't getting the attention that they need. There are people now, a few, but people now on the Hill that want to talk about those things. I know for me, I am doing all that I can to book listening tours and kind of planning out some strategy around it. So I would love to work with people that are in the room and on the call on those things with the Hill, but also thinking about MBEX expansion into state work. Also utilizing those networks that we have with Black women legislators across the country to also get these things done on a state level. So I'm a very tangible person. Like, let's talk about the emotions because that's important. That informs how we engage in policy. But these members have been getting away far too long with just coming to our events, hearing us out, maybe saying one or two things that they've done and leaving and going to the next thing. That's not going to fly from now on, period.
And to, can you please give your name and your organization for the virtual?
Yes, sorry. Crystal Leapart, that's my name. And then I'm coming from the National Birth Equity Collaborative. Some of y'all may be familiar with Dr. Joya, who is just brilliant and blessed to be one of her new staffers in her policy department.
Ebony Taylor, Executive Director, Michigan Executive Director of Mother and Justice. I just wanted to sort of piggyback off of what Crystal just said and just add that, and we have to become those Black, Latina, and Indigenous legislators as well. That's something that Mother and Justice always uplifts on our C3 and our C4 side. It's just encouraging all of us sitting here are, and some of us are running for office, but that's a C4 combo. But you know, encouraging moms to run for office. And Cindy, is it? I'm sorry, from class. I'm sorry, Alicia. I'm so sorry. I'm horrible with names. I know your face, and I am, you know, so I appreciate you being here. But just wanted to think about this intersection that we talked about in like our work and like how we come together. And like you know, Alicia and I were talking at the top of this event about you know, collaborating around research, right? It you know, Crystal made a great point about you know, the research that happens and how we're, you know, and the legislative piece, like appealing to researchers, appealing to legislators. We have to be the ones that dictate what's being said. We have to be the ones that are doing the research. We have to be the ones that are deciding what is put out there. And so Alicia and I were talking about collaborating at some point in the future. And that's sort of what we wanted this roundtable to be, is like, how do we connect? How do we come together to, you know, create something larger, to create something bigger? So thank you again.
I just wanted to also jump in and say, you know, we have to reclaim our data. Whether that's qualitative or quantitative data, that's us being in every space, whether that's from development and creating sources for funding and granting out funds, whether that's being a practitioner, being whatever that looks like at every, I don't even want to say level, but every part of the spectrum of what policy looks like, we have to be there, bring ourselves, be present, be unapologetic about the perspectives that we bring to the table and not be afraid to make it clear what we're doing here. And I think that's something that I've grown into being more comfortable about, being okay with saying, I'm here to speak for Black families, to speak for Indigenous families, to say, you know, I'm not Indigenous myself, but I think that our histories are so connected in many ways. So I also often bring them into space with me as well. And so I think that's something we have to do. I mean, my journey to the policy space was like, I want to get a PhD and do like really high level data,
because I date all these statistics that are out and I never understand them. And so like I was driven to get my master's and focus on data and higher level data. And I was like, that's not for me. So qualitative, but all those spaces, we have to reclaim the information, the research that's out there about us and insert ourselves in the places and the stories that people tell about us using information that they pervert and twist to continue this narrative of like, oh, they're poor and they can't be trusted with their own resources. And look what they do when we have to end that. And so wherever space you're in, policy is going to be there. And so I just encourage women to get every walk of life and bring all of that with you wherever you go.
Raven, again, Mama Vis from South Carolina. I'm here with Mother and Justice. One thing I said earlier was like the oppression that Black and Indigenous mothers face is like a spider web. It's not just one thing, it's like multiple things. And when you start to lay it out, it's so many things for so many of us, you start to get overwhelmed. And that's what I was talking about earlier. I was like, I'm very thankful that Mother and Justice is an organization that said, you know what, we're gonna radicalize on the political side. Because Tish had taught me when we first met, like, look, every part of the organization is important. The political side, the grassroots side, and I think so many times people want to divide us apart, like, and it's like elitism that can almost get into our culture, like, oh no, you can't sit with us, or oh no, because this is what we're doing, we're voting, and it's like you're not that important. But all the pieces are important because the oppression we face is like a spider web. So our organization has to be the same thing. And the data shows that when we're talking about reproductive justice and PCOS and endometriosis, that is connected to food, that we have a big insecurity of. When I looked at the data of how much farmers get paid in the United States and how much Black farmers get paid and how we don't have access to good foods and what that does to our body, we are disproportionately affected by that. So it's like all the areas of people doing work in our communities, we have to bring everybody to the table because every part matters. Having good food at daycare matters because they get state funding and the state is like, oh, we really don't care. I look at what the kids get in public school. I'm like, this is what the babies be eating. Like, Lord, then the mamas can't afford to send their babies lunch. Some kids depend on school lunch. Without school lunch, they do not eat. Children are hungry. Mamas are hungry. And it can get so overwhelming when we talk about reproductive justice. We have to talk about rape and sexual assault, which affects Black women and Indigenous women the most. And why we don't report. People want to keep talking about the police, but that's why they don't report, because the police aren't doing their jobs. Data show that it takes 2 to 3 years for a victim to even get heard in court. So it's like so many levels and barriers that we have to face. And I think when we humble ourselves to just bring it back to the root, America wouldn't be here without the wombs of our ancestors. There will be no people. So therefore, without all of us inviting everybody to the table, regardless of what role we play, we can work together and like stitch ourselves like a spider web and just be like, okay, we're gonna handle this part while y'all handle this part. And then we can collab on this. So that's why I'm just very thankful for, being here today and just learning so much. And it's just like light bulbs keep going off like, oh, wow, this is just so deeply connected. So that's all I wanted to say.
Hi, Raven. Can you give your name one more time for the virtual?
Raven Walker.
Okay, well, with that, we are almost at time. We have 5 minutes left. I am sitting in a space of just deep gratitude for each of you showing up, for speaking the truth about what's in your bodies, what's in your bones, what's in your homes. And one of the beautiful things that I'm sitting in right now, one of the things that one of my teachers taught me was this remembrance of not only the healing piece, but until you actually say what it is, everybody's going to tell you what it isn't. And what I mean by that is whenever we say, oh, it's because we aren't getting the right food, people are going to be like, no, it's because they don't know how to eat good food. Oh, well, they don't have equitable childcare. Well, they didn't know what they wanted, so we just gave them the basic. So until we're clear, it's almost always falling for the okie doke, right? It's almost always sitting in a space where somebody's going to tell you what you want and what you need, because because they've never experienced it, they think they have the authority over you. They think they have the wisdom to say, oh, this is what it actually is. You don't know, you're not intelligent enough. Let me tell you what it is, because I haven't had the experience. Therefore, I must know how to avoid it. And so I'm sitting in this space of beauty because you all are weaving this together around, it's not just that our work intersects and aligns, it's that we are woven together. And because we are woven together, once we are clear on how deeply tied together we are, and until we're willing to say, okay, you rest and I'll hold, and pass it back and forth, until we're willing to actually sink into that and own that piece, there are always these things that are going to tell us how we can tear each other apart. In this room, these experiences with you all online, with us here in person, this is how it shifts. This is how it changes. Not just because we're brave enough to say what we want, what we think, what we need, but because we're actually doing it. We're actually in a space where we're saying, okay, it's no longer possible for people to tell us why we can't breathe. We're actually going to make space. And so one of the invitations that Mothering Justice has brought us into in this moment is the request to not only join the Mamas Caucus, but to also continue conversations like this locally where you are, and join the national, I almost said national and federal, but join the national fights around this. Step in wherever you feel called, because it is exhausting, and it's intended to be exhausting. It's intended to wear you down so that you don't have the ability to do anything other than function. And so spaces like this not only offer breath and life, but they also open us up to curiosity around, what am I willing to do and what am I saying yes to? And how can I say that with my entire being? And so if you haven't taken a second in the chat, if you're online, throw your name and your contact information in so that we can connect with you as we build the caucus. If you want to host conversations close to you, Mothering Justice will have the opportunity for you to join not only into those conversations, but host your own. And then as we transition, I just want to take a minute. Is there anything else anyone wants to bring into space? Is there anything else we need to share or uplift?
Chat. They're coming in. This is from Josephine. Wanting to know that one of the ways our work intersect and align is that that there are the same people at the center of impact. And many of these people feel disempowered and disconnected from the democracy. So basically that we are all here together, but we feel some degree of disconnect from the democracy. And I think that's the gap that this work will close. There she goes.
I just wanted to address that question head on, right? Mothering Justice is not only doing service roundtable by bringing people, organizations together here, but they're also doing amazing outreach to member offices, congressional offices, to the White House, to the office of the Vice President. They're doing the work. And so this conversation, I think, as Bianca has brilliantly put, is an invitation for your organizations to come together and also speak to that power, right? So we hope that you would continue to foster this conversation, because all day tomorrow we will be either on the Hill, on Capitol Hill, in virtual spaces, or actually physically in the White House, relaying that your organizations are part of this movement that we're having here. And so, that comment was essentially saying that there is a disconnect. Mothering Justice is trying to serve as that connector, and we have to make sure that we continue to uplift the work that's being done here and be a contributing factor.
Yeah, I think yes, and Josie is someone who's been in this space for a really long time, and this again, I keep going back to what Leanne said at the beginning of the call about having family and people on the reservation and people living in the city. And it's just such a perfect analogy for this political work as well, right? So we are here, we are all deeply connected to these systems of power. And then there are people at home that feel incredibly disconnected. And that is our job to make those bridges of connection. And so I feel that comment, and we have to, that's our charge, right? Is to continue to reach back. And I just thought, kudos to Bianca. She always amazes me at her facilitation skills and the ability to start with the interpersonal, and Tatiana as well, with the agenda being deeply personal. We have to do that work because we are humans and we function as human beings. We have to be able to relate to each other in every conversation and then have the conversation about shared power.
Okay, with that, sitting in a place of close, of thanking each and every single one of you for being in space and for not only throwing in your wisdom and honoring the wisdom that was shared in this room, but also for coming with your curiosity, with your questions, and with the ways that we maybe haven't thought of to weave together. Sometimes you don't know the thread is loose until somebody tugs on it. And so being able to weave this together so brilliantly and beautifully, I am humbled and thankful for Mothering Justice. I'm thankful for each of the organizations who have shown up here today, for each of you women who have stepped into this space to put not only your voice in, but also to say, like, this is what it is. This is what we're experiencing. And so as we leave this space together, I do one more invitation. If you haven't thrown your information into the chat for the caucus sign up, please do so. And this last space, I just want us to invite ourselves into our own bodies. This has been a beautiful discussion. And without you, it would not have been possible. So as we all leave this space, there is a brilliant writer, Advocacy, who also does some phenomenal things in the somatics and body world and in the communities, in some of the cities and the neighborhoods around this world. But Advocacy invites us to inhale and exhale. There is a beautiful heart spell that I'm going to take a second to read. Just give me 1 second, and that'll be our exit out. But I'm going to let everybody take a second in the chat while I pull this up again. I'll, of course, want to exit it out. The Wi-Fi is giving me some issues now. So what we'll do instead, we'll pivot. Oh, yeah, actually. Oh, wait, got it. Let's try. Okay, so still loading. This is how it's going today. Okay. Oh, here we go. It came up. Return to yourself. Light a candle. Inhale the air that surrounds you, from the soles of the earth to the crown of the galaxies. Open your heart with breath, with life force. Feel your heart expand with the rhythms moving through you. Exhale. Inhale. See light fill all empty spaces. Awaken the tree within. Breathe your limbs tall, your roots deep.
Exhale. Inhale. Expand heart muscle even wider. Push past boundaries, break through chains. Reach for your power and digest its dimensions. Fill through cracks. Pulse with life. Exhale. Inhale. Deep. Deeper. Anchor yourself to the love that is you, to the love that is your ancestors, to the love that is life, to the love that can never be stolen. Radiate this truth, strong enough to break restrictions. Exhale. Inhale. Increase the flow of love and let each breath be a magic spell you cast upon yourself. So thank you for breathing with us. And as you continue on your day, honor your breath and your heartbeat, because every bit of you matters to every bit of us. Thank you all.
Okay.